Hey everybody, and welcome back to Bakes by Vasco. I'm Michelle with 1L, and as always, I'm glad you're here. Well, it is pumpkin everything season, and while I do love my pumpkin spice, it has its place, and it's not in everything. But today, we are making something really easy. We're going to make yeasted pumpkin bread. Now, what you're going to need for this pumpkin bread is a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree. I only use Libby's. 2 teaspoons of dry yeast, 2 teaspoons of honey, 4 cups of unbleached flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, and an egg glaze that you'll make with 1 egg yolk and a tablespoon of milk. Now, let's get to baking our pumpkin bread. Super simple, here you go. First thing you want to do to make this yeasted pumpkin bread is put your 2 teaspoons of dry yeast into a 1/4 cup of water and mix it together. You stir it to dissolve it, and then you leave that for 5 minutes. While that 5 minutes is happening, go ahead and in whatever bowl you're going to use, I'm going to use my stand mixer with my dough hook, even though this bread requires being kneaded out by hand. I already added my 4 cups of unbleached flour to the bowl with my 2 teaspoons of salt, and all you're going to want to do with this, with your hand or your rubber spatula, while that's proofing, is just make a hole in the middle. Make a little nest, because that's where you're going to add all your stuff. We have our flour and salt with our nest. We have our yeast proofing in with a 1/4 cup of water. And I just wanted to show you my cookbook. I picked this up at a thrift store a while back, and it is The Art of Bread. And this is the book that I am making my recipe from today. So if you see me looking up, ignore it because I didn't get it memorized. So yeah, but this recipe, super simple, and it's going to be super yummy. All right, yeast is ready. We are now ready to add 2 teaspoons of honey. So we're going to kind of guesstimate here because it's a bitch to get out of a teaspoon. So I know what my measuring cup said. 1/4 cup. Add 2 teaspoons. That's the beauty of this, is my measurements are on the side. So my 2 teaspoons are added, and we're going to stir up the honey so it will dissolve. It's kind of like a milkshake. I don't recommend trying it until you pour it into the hole in the flour in your bowl. You don't have a hole in your bowl. Then we're going to take our 15-ounce can of Libby's pumpkin puree and slop it down in there with all that. And we're now ready to mix this bad boy up. I'm using my dough hook because even though I will hand knead this, I know it's easier to mix. So now I get to turn this out, make sure it's all nice and smooth and elasticy, and I'm supposed to put it in a clean bowl. I don't know why I have to dirty a bowl, but I forgot to get that bowl out. So just 1 second. All right, we have a nice, smooth, silky, very elasticy dough here. I'm just gonna make it nice and bally. And then I'm going to throw it in there. Our dough is in its bowl, and all you do now is cover it with a dish towel, a clean one, and make sure your hands are clean before you touched it too. And we'll let that sit for an hour. And voila! Our hour's passed, and our dough is doubled in size, and you can start smelling that yummy yeasty goodness. But now is the time that if you have any aggressions, punch that dough down. Now let that rest for 10 minutes, and then we'll shape it into our round loaf. All right, it has now rested, and we are going to turn it into a loaf now. So we'll just take this out of the bowl. That's kind of sticky still. Set the bowl aside. Or in the sink. And just make it nice and smooth. And pinch the bottom. So you got a little bit of a seam kind of going there. My baking sheet. You don't want to overwork it, but you want to get it into a nice smooth loaf. And then we're just going to sit it down on our baking sheet. And your towel, cover it once again. Sorry, that's got a little spot of dough on it, but that'll be all right. And now you let that rest again for an hour. All right, everybody, we have now proofed for another whole hour. Look at that lovely loaf. We have 1 egg yolk and a tablespoon of milk here whisked together. We're going to give this a nice little egg glaze. And this will just ensure that it has a nice glossy sheen to its crunch. Before you start this part, make sure your oven has been preheating to 425 degrees. Mine's ready. So let's take it. Whew, heat wave. We're having a heat wave. Tropical heat wave. Center rack for 40 minutes. Well, my little pumpkin tiki timer has gone off, so let's pull this bread out, see if it gives us a hollow thump on the bottom, and it'll be done. Sounds pretty good. Pick it up. Looks good to me. What do you think? All right, everybody, our pumpkin bread has come out of the oven. It is nice and hot, and it has that hollow thump when you smack it on the bottom. So we're going to let it rest here. And while we do that, before we cut into it, be sure you hit like and subscribe and tune back in to see what's coming next, because I have a use for this specific type of pumpkin bread coming up in my next video. All right, everybody, once again, I'm Michelle with 1L, and this is Bakes by Vasco. And I'm glad you've been hanging out with me today while I tried this new recipe for a yeasted pumpkin bread. In the next video, if you stay tuned to find out, we're going to make a pumpkin bread pudding. So hit that like and subscribe button and join me right now as we do the best part, the eating. It's hot. Ooh, steamy. It's not the bread, it's the knives. See you next time, everybody.